A woman becomes truly powerful not when she controls others, but when she no longer needs to control anything to feel at peace. That is when her energy becomes magnetic. Pause for a moment. Think about what it means to walk into a room and bring calm instead of chaos, to hear a hurtful comment and not respond from the wound but from the wisdom, to let go of what doesn't nourish your spirit, not because you're cold but because you're clear. This kind of strength doesn't shout. It doesn't demand recognition. It simply is. The world often teaches women to be everything: loud, available, reactive, desirable. But the deeper truth is this: a smart woman becomes magnetic not through noise, but through her ability to remain centered when everything else is off balance. She does not shrink, nor does she seek approval. She returns to her breath. She returns to her boundaries. She returns to herself. There is a silent discipline that defines the strength of a woman who is self-aware. Not the kind of strength that pushes against the world with loud declarations, but the kind that holds its ground with quiet certainty. You can see it in her presence. She does not need to prove her worth or overextend her heart to be validated. She moves through the world with the understanding that her energy is not something to be scattered. It is to be guarded, directed, and honored. To guard your energy is to live intentionally. It means that you do not allow every passing emotion, every random conversation, or every chaotic person to find shelter inside your spirit, because not every connection is nourishment. Some are leaks. Some people are not offering companionship. They are feeding off your calm because they haven't cultivated their own. The moment you begin to treat your emotional presence like a sacred space, your life changes. Not instantly, but steadily, like a tree growing quietly beneath the surface, until one day it breaks through the soil with undeniable strength. One woman shared a story of how she used to enter every room trying to fix the emotional temperature. If someone was upset, she'd try to soothe them. If there was tension, she'd absorb it just to maintain harmony. Over time, she became exhausted, not because of the weight of life, but because of the weight of other people's unprocessed emotions. Her nervous system, she realized, was constantly in alert mode. She had mistaken sensitivity for responsibility. When she finally began to pull back, not with coldness, but with clarity, she noticed something profound. The world didn't collapse. People adjusted. Her peace returned, and she began to understand that real love does not require depletion. Neuroscience reveals something important here. Our brains are wired with mirror neurons, which cause us to reflect and absorb the emotional states of those around us. This means that who you spend time with is not just a social choice. It's a biological influence. If you are surrounded by people who operate from fear, anger, or neediness, your emotional system begins to mirror that frequency. But when you place yourself in environments of steadiness, kindness, and authenticity, your nervous system responds with regulation. That calm you feel around certain people isn't imaginary. It's a sign that their energy is safe for your spirit. So, guarding your energy isn't about isolation. It's about discernment. It's about knowing that you can still be compassionate without becoming a container for other people's chaos, that you can hold space for someone without losing your own, and that the highest form of love you can offer the world is a regulated, grounded, present version of yourself. This is especially important in relationships, Because many women have been conditioned to equate love with self-sacrifice. They think that proving loyalty means absorbing pain. But true intimacy begins where self-abandonment ends. If your presence in someone's life requires that you constantly ignore your intuition, silence your needs, or shrink your truth, then that relationship is not love. It is survival masquerading as connection. Guarding your energy also means not explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. Not every conversation deserves your emotional investment. Not every argument needs your rebuttal. Sometimes silence is not avoidance. It is wisdom. One woman described how she used to explain herself to people who had already made up their minds. She would spend hours crafting texts, rehearsing phone calls, trying to win back their understanding. It left her drained and hollow. When she finally stopped chasing clarity from those who thrived on confusion, she reclaimed her dignity. Her energy was no longer scattered. It became focused, purposeful, and aligned with her values. This principle applies just as deeply to the digital spaces we inhabit. Social media is a powerful amplifier of energy. The content you consume, the people you follow, the messages you internalize, all of these shape your emotional atmosphere. If you constantly expose yourself to comparison, outrage, and distraction, you are training your mind to remain unsettled. But if you curate your intake, just like you curate your relationships, you create a digital sanctuary that supports your evolution. You do not owe your attention to anyone or anything that drains your light. There is an old proverb that says, when you walk with the wise, you become wise, but when you walk with fools, you suffer harm. This isn't just moral teaching, it's emotional truth. Smart women recognize this. They know that it is not cruel to walk away from what harms your peace. It is sacred, because peace is not passive. Peace is an act of courage. It takes strength to choose softness in a world that rewards hardness. It takes maturity to say no, not just to others, but to your own old patterns that once kept you safe but no longer serve your becoming. Guarding your energy also means honoring the seasons of your life. You do not have to be accessible all the time. You are not here to be emotionally available to everyone. There will be seasons where you need to go inward, to recalibrate, to mourn, to rest. These are not empty seasons, they are preparation. The same way soil needs to lie fallow before it produces again. You too need to protect the seasons of stillness in your journey. A woman who respects her inner rhythm does not fear missing out. She knows that what is meant for her does not require burnout to receive. And so, the first rule is simple but profound. Guard your energy as you guard your heart. Because when your energy is clean, your life begins to reflect that clarity. The relationships that stay are the ones that feed your growth. The situations that leave reveal what was never meant to stay. And your own self, no longer fragmented, returns home to itself. There is another quiet rule that wise women live by: speak less, observe more. Not because they have nothing to say, but because they've learned that most truths are revealed in silence. Words are powerful, but not all are necessary. In the rush to be heard, to defend, to clarify, something is often lost: presence. Smart women do not waste their words trying to convince others of who they are. They know that character is revealed not through explanations, but through consistency. They trust in the power of silence, because silence teaches you to see. It teaches you to read what is unspoken. In relationships, this becomes a superpower. While others are talking over each other, trying to be right, trying to win, the woman who observes can see what most miss. How someone reacts under pressure, how they speak about others, how they respond when their ego is challenged. She listens not just to words, but to tone, not just to promises, but to patterns. There is a deep spiritual clarity that emerges when you begin to value observation over reaction. You become less impulsive, more grounded. You realize that most people reveal everything you need to know if you're just patient enough to let them talk. A woman once said, "When I stopped trying to be understood, I started to understand." That's the transformation. When you become less reactive, the truth starts to surface, often quietly, like the first light of dawn. From a psychological standpoint, the ability to pause and observe is rooted in executive functioning. This is the part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, that allows us to manage impulse, regulate emotion, and make decisions aligned with long-term values. When you speak less and observe more, you activate this part of your brain. You create space between stimulus and response. And in that space lies your freedom. The freedom to choose who you want to be in that moment, rather than defaulting to old programming. Eastern philosophy speaks to this as well. The concept of Wu Wei, effortless action, teaches that observation is the foundation of wise movement. You do not need to force what is natural. When you are attuned to your environment, your intuition, your body, you begin to act from alignment, not urgency. You do not need to chase answers. You allow truth to reveal itself. In practical life, this might mean listening fully when someone speaks instead of formulating your response while they talk. It means watching how someone behaves when they think you're not paying attention. It means noticing your own triggers without judging them and asking, why did that make me feel defensive? What story am I telling myself right now? Observation also requires the discipline of stillness. And stillness is hard in a world that constantly pushes for noise, movement, reaction. But a woman rooted in stillness is not easy to manipulate. She's not quick to defend what she already knows to be true. She does not respond to provocation with panic. Instead, she leans back, listens, watches. She studies energy, not just words. And this is what gives her the edge, not power over others, but power within herself. In conflict, she chooses presence over performance. She can sit in discomfort without needing to dominate it. She lets silence do the heavy lifting. Because sometimes the most powerful statement is no statement at all. And the deepest form of strength is not saying everything. It's knowing what doesn't need to be said. This practice is not easy at first. If you've been conditioned to seek validation through conversation, or to rescue relationships through over-communication, the silence can feel threatening. But over time, it becomes comforting. It becomes a sanctuary. Because when you speak less, you start to hear more within yourself and in others. You begin to notice who listens when you finally do speak. You start to see who respects your stillness rather than fills it with noise. A woman once told of how she tested this principle in dating. She decided she would no longer fill awkward silences with chatter. She would allow the man to lead the conversation, to reveal his values, to show his intentions. And what she found surprised her. Some men withdrew. They were uncomfortable with the lack of validation. Others leaned in, intrigued by her calm. But the most important result was not about the men, it was about her. She felt empowered. She felt in control of her space. She felt free. To speak less and observe more is not about silence for silence's sake. It is about creating space for awareness. And from that awareness comes wisdom. The kind that doesn't need to argue. The kind that doesn't need to explain. The kind that simply knows, and in knowing becomes immovable. Because when you truly observe, not just with your eyes, but with your soul, you begin to see the truth about people, about situations, about yourself. And in that truth, there is power. Quiet, steady, unshakable power. The kind that doesn't need attention. Because it already has presence. There is a subtle transformation that takes place in a woman's life the moment she shifts from seeking to aligning. It doesn't happen all at once. It begins with a quiet awakening, often born out of exhaustion. The exhaustion of chasing people who don't see her, of trying to impress those who only value her when she's bending, of pouring effort into places where her presence is only acknowledged when it's convenient. And in that quiet turning point, she starts to ask herself a more powerful question. What if I stop chasing and start aligning? Alignment is different from ambition. It's not driven by the need to prove. It's rooted in clarity. You are no longer acting from the fear of being alone, but from the knowing that being alone is not the worst thing. Being disconnected from yourself is. Alignment means your choices begin to reflect your values, not your wounds. It means your yes is honest and your no is clear. You are no longer available for emotional transactions that cost you your peace. You stop responding out of fear and start moving from trust, not trust in others, but trust in your own path. Many women spend years chasing attention, affection, and recognition, believing that if they just give more, please more, prove more, they will finally be chosen. But the truth is, what is truly meant for you will never require you to chase it down. It will come as a result of your alignment. A woman who is aligned with her truth becomes a magnet, not a pursuer. She doesn't run after what's running away. She plants herself deeply, like a tree that knows the rain will come in its season. She understands that desperation distorts discernment. This is not just spiritual wisdom, it's also neurological truth. When you are in a constant state of chasing, your sympathetic nervous system is activated. This is the stress response. Your body is flooded with cortisol, your heart rate increases, and your mind becomes focused on threat and lack. You begin to overanalyze, to cling, to panic. You start interpreting silence as rejection, boundaries as abandonment, and distance as punishment. But when you begin to align, your parasympathetic nervous system activates. Your body relaxes, your breathing slows, and your mind gains clarity. In that state, you don't chase, you choose. You respond with presence, not panic. There's a story of a woman who used to find herself always falling for emotionally unavailable men. She thought her love would unlock them, heal them, change them. Each relationship followed the same cycle. She would give, and they would withdraw. One day, she sat down and wrote a list, not of what she wanted in a man, but of who she was becoming. She realized she was chasing emotional depth in others that she had not fully cultivated in herself. So she began the work, not of finding love, but of becoming it. She focused on healing the parts of her that equated intensity with intimacy. Slowly, the men she attracted began to change, not because they changed, but because her energy no longer called in what was misaligned. She stopped chasing emotionally distant men because she was no longer emotionally distant from herself. To live in alignment is to make peace with your own timing. It is to release the need to be seen in every moment and to instead focus on becoming someone worth being seen. Alignment does not guarantee that you will not face disappointment, but it ensures that your disappointment will not break you, because you are not acting from emptiness. You are acting from essence. You are no longer performing to be loved. You are living to be whole. And in relationships, this becomes the anchor. A woman in alignment does not settle for almost love. She does not confuse emotional highs and lows with chemistry. She is not swayed by potential. She chooses partnership with those who already live in integrity because she herself walks in integrity. And even if she walks alone for a time, she does so with dignity, not desperation. Her solitude is not a void. It is a sanctuary. She would rather wait in stillness than rush into sorrow. There is a quiet power in knowing that you do not need to hustle for your worth. That your presence, when aligned, is already enough, and that the right people will feel it, not because you demanded it, but because you lived it. From this place of alignment comes another deeper practice, cultivating emotional precision. It is not enough to feel deeply. One must learn to feel clearly. Many confuse intensity for depth, but emotion without awareness is chaos. Precision in emotion means you not only feel, you understand what you're feeling, where it's coming from, and what it's asking you to address. This kind of emotional intelligence is not taught in schools, but it is one of the most essential life skills, especially in relationships. When you lack emotional precision, you project your past onto your present. You think your partner is ignoring you, when really, they're just tired. You interpret someone's boundary as rejection because you have not healed your fear of abandonment. You mistake anxiety for intuition because you haven't learned to distinguish your triggers from your truth. Emotional precision starts with awareness, the ability to pause and name your emotion before reacting to it. Neuroscience supports this. Studies show that simply naming an emotion, saying, "I feel angry," or "I feel ashamed," activates the prefrontal cortex and reduces activity in the amygdala, which is responsible for fear and impulsive response. In other words, by naming the emotion, you gain control over it. You move from reaction to response. One woman reflected on how she used to respond to conflict with anger. Not because she was truly angry, but because it was the only emotion she had permission to feel. Sadness, fear, confusion. Those were emotions she had been taught to suppress. As she began her healing work, she realized that beneath her anger was often hurt, and beneath the hurt was a deep longing to be seen. By learning to feel precisely, she no longer exploded in arguments. She expressed what was real. She was able to say, "When you cancel our plans without notice, I feel unimportant," instead of accusing or withdrawing. And her relationships began to shift, not because others changed, but because her communication became clean. Precision in emotion also requires the discipline to pause. There is a sacred gap between stimulus and response. In that space lies your power. When something triggers you, do not move immediately. Breathe. Ask yourself, what am I really feeling? Where have I felt this before? Is this emotion based on the present, or is it echoing something from the past? This inner dialogue is not overthinking. It is the beginning of mastery. Eastern traditions teach that emotions are not enemies to be suppressed, but energies to be observed. They are messengers, not threats. When you are sad, your body is asking for release. When you are anxious, your mind is seeking safety. When you are angry, your boundaries may have been crossed. The more precise you become in reading these signals, the more gracefully you move through life. You no longer need others to fix your feelings because you know how to listen to them. This kind of emotional discipline transforms relationships. It creates a space of safety, not only for yourself, but for others. People feel safer around you not because you are emotionless, but because you are emotionally responsible. You don't make others carry what you haven't processed. You don't punish people for wounds they didn't create. You don't confuse love with control. You love with awareness, not with agenda. There is a story of an older woman who, after decades of emotional turbulence, learned to regulate herself. She said, "In my younger years, I wanted someone to calm me down. Now, I've learned to calm myself. That is the most romantic thing I've ever done for myself." Her story reveals something profound. Emotional precision is not just a skill. It is an act of self-respect. It is not about perfection. You will still be triggered. You will still have moments of overwhelm. But the difference is, you begin to recognize it. You begin to name it. You begin to respond with intention rather than react with pain. And over time, your inner world becomes a place of clarity instead of confusion. So when you love someone, don't just give them your heart. Give them your clarity. Learn to say what you feel, why you feel it, and what you need. Not in demand, but in dignity. This is not emotional dependence. It is emotional maturity. It's what builds trust. It's what creates intimacy. Not just physical closeness, but emotional safety. When a woman becomes emotionally precise, she no longer fears her feelings. She respects them. And in doing so, she teaches others how to love her with the same precision. Because when you know yourself, you don't need to be rescued. You just need to be met. And those who are capable of meeting you will rise to that level. Not because you chased them there, but because you aligned yourself so fully that anything less would be unrecognizable. Letting go of someone you still love is among the most difficult acts a woman can face. It pulls on every thread of attachment, memory, and hope. It forces a confrontation, not only with what was, but with what could have been. The mind replays what went wrong, where it could have been different, how one more conversation might have changed everything. But underneath all that noise, there's another truth waiting, quiet, steady, and liberating. Letting go is not about weakness, nor is it about giving up. It's about choosing dignity over desperation. It's about realizing that love alone is not enough if it requires you to betray yourself. The heart can still love someone who no longer respects you. It can still crave someone who brings more confusion than clarity. But the wiser part of you, the part that has grown through pain, knows that continuing to hold on to a one-sided bond is not devotion. It's self-abandonment. There is no nobility in staying in places that continually diminish your light. There is no strength in holding on to people who have already let go of you in their behavior, even if not in their words. Emotional bonds, especially romantic ones, are fueled by neurotransmitters like oxytocin and dopamine. These chemicals don't always respond to logic. That's why even when you know a person is not good for your well-being, your body can still ache for them. The release of oxytocin, particularly through physical touch, shared routines, and emotional vulnerability, creates a neural loop that makes detaching feel like withdrawal. It's not unlike breaking an addiction. That's why the first step isn't just physical distance, it's internal realignment. One woman described her journey through this process. She had been in a relationship with a man who was hot and cold, loving one day, distant the next. She excused the inconsistency as emotional complexity. She mistook pain for depth. But the truth was, she was more invested in this potential of the relationship than in the reality of it. Over time, the relationship began to erode her self-worth. She felt anxious more than loved. She found herself explaining, proving, waiting. And then, one evening after another broken promise, something shifted. Not in rage, but in clarity. She stood in front of the mirror and asked herself, what am I protecting? This love or my fear of losing it? That question began her path to letting go. Not with bitterness, but with quiet resolve. She allowed herself to grieve, to feel the ache of absence, to confront her fear of starting over. And through that pain, she discovered something far more powerful than attachment. She found her dignity again. She began to rebuild her sense of self, not around a relationship, but around her values, her peace, her inner knowing. Letting go with dignity means that you stop begging for closure and create it yourself. It means you no longer wait for apologies that may never come, or for someone to finally recognize your worth. You stop needing the story to end perfectly in order for you to walk away. Instead, you choose to end it with integrity, not because they deserve it, but because you do. This choice requires emotional boundaries. It requires saying no to communication that reopens wounds. It means unfollowing, not to be petty, but to protect your healing. It means setting up rituals that reconnect you to your own presence. A walk in the morning, journaling your emotions without censoring them, moving your body to release what words can't express. These are not distractions, they are declarations. Each act says, I am choosing myself now. There's an ancient teaching that says, when the heart lets go, the soul returns. Because when your heart is tethered to someone who continues to wound it, your soul becomes fragmented. Your energy is spent scanning for their attention, decoding their moods, hoping for their growth. But when you release that bond, not out of hatred, but out of love for yourself, you begin to return to wholeness. You become emotionally available to your own life again. Your intuition gets louder, your clarity becomes sharper, and slowly you remember who you were before you began molding yourself to fit into someone else's capacity to love. This act of release is not done in a single moment. It happens breath by breath, day by day, thought by thought. Some days you'll feel empowered, and others you'll feel shattered. That's part of it. The key is to not let the pain pull you back into what you already outgrew, because healing doesn't mean you stop loving someone. It means you stop abandoning yourself for them. A woman once shared that the most powerful moment of her life was when she walked away from a man she still loved. Not because he was evil, but because he was unavailable. She said, I realized I was trying to make a home out of a hallway. And when I left, I finally saw all the open doors life was waiting to show me. When you let go with dignity, you don't just end a relationship, You reclaim the energy that was once lost in holding it together. You come back to yourself, not the self that was anxious, reactive, or unsure, but the self that is whole, present, and enough. And from this return comes a deeper awareness, the realization that your emotional responses are not random. They are rituals shaped by years of conditioning, and to evolve, you must replace reaction with conscious ritual. In that shift lies your freedom. Most people live in emotional autopilot. Something upsets them, they lash out. Something disappoints them, they withdraw. Something triggers fear, they chase or avoid. These responses are often rooted in past survival strategies. But to live a meaningful life, especially in love, you must learn how to respond, not react. This means creating rituals that interrupt the cycle of reactivity and rewire your nervous system toward presence. A ritual is not a habit done mindlessly. It is an intentional practice designed to bring you back to center. For one woman, her ritual was 5 deep breaths before responding to a triggering message. For another, it was writing down what she wanted to say, but not sending it until 24 hours had passed. For someone else, it was lighting a candle and sitting in silence when emotions began to flood her body. These rituals were not meant to suppress emotion, but to hold it, to give it space without letting it control the next decision. Scientific research shows that rituals, even simple ones, help regulate the amygdala, reduce cortisol, and increase a sense of control. They act as anchors. When your emotions rise like waves, your ritual is the shore that reminds you, I have a choice. I am not at the mercy of my reaction.